Dear listener, a warm welcome to the Poetry Pea Cast. I'm your host, Patricia, and today we have a reading from one of the great Canadian haijin of our time, Reid Hepworth. It's drawn from her luminous collection, Loss is a River. Susan Birch has said of this book that each poem is powerful on its own, but as a collection, these poems accentuate the love, loss, and grief that Hepworth feels. But before you prepare yourself for 30 minutes of melancholy musings, let me reassure you, today's reading is not a sorrow-drenched affair, far from it. The collection spans the full breadth of human feelings, the quiet, the celebratory, the wistful, the fierce, and within it all, there's so much that resonates deeply with each of us. But before we wade into those waters, I must pause for a moment of housekeeping and, more importantly, a moment of contrition. In episode 47 of the series, our tanka episode, I made an error. Not a frivolous slip of the tongue, but a genuine mistake that deserves to be acknowledged with the seriousness it warrants. I owe my sincerest apologies to Bedi and Marylyn Burridge. I read the following tanka and mistakenly attributed it to Marylyn, when it is, in truth, Mona's poem. Moving home, we sell the memories for a dime, but I carry with me the stars we named in another life. Moving home, we sell the memories for a dime, but I carry with me the stars we named in another life. Mona Bedi. And compounding that misstep, I entirely omitted Marylyn's beautiful piece, a poem that deserved to be heard, honoured, and treasured. The roses you helped me plant so long ago tell our story of bloom and fade, yet they bloom. The roses you helped me plant so long ago tell our story of bloom and fade, yet they bloom. And that lovely piece was by Marylyn Burridge. To both poets, I offer my heartfelt and unreserved apologies. Their work means a great deal to me and to this community, and I honestly regret the oversight. Now, there is one final note I must share, a small turning of the page, if you will. I'm going to be taking a short break over the Christmas holidays to spend time with my family, and then a few additional weeks to prepare what promises to be a rather splendid bumper season 9 of the podcast. There's much to be done to ready Poetry Pea for the exciting developments coming to its press in 2026. There's something I've long wished to bring to life, and over the coming weeks, with a bit of focused work and possibly scandalous amounts of tea and bickies, I believe I can lay the groundwork. I hope to tell you about it in the new year. Those on the mailing list, and naturally our members, will be the first to hear. So, you know precisely what to do. Become a member, which helps Poetry Pea continue offering its services to the short-form poetry community, or simply sign up for the mailing list. Either way, you'll be right at the heart of everything that's about to happen. And don't forget to check out the submission agenda for 2026. It will be in the drop-down menu under submissions on the Poetry Pea website. I may not be here at the beginning of January, but we'll open as always with our video prompts at the beginning of the year. And this time, it's a monster. And now, as this is our final podcast for 2025, I felt it only right that we see out the year in proper style. And I believe we're about to do that. Please join me in welcoming Reid Hepworth to the podcast for a truly stellar reading. Reid Hepworth is here, all the way from Ontario in Canada, to read to you from her tremendous book of short-form poetry, Loss is a River. Welcome back, Reid.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm very pleased to have you. Just disappointed you didn't bring the ukulele with you this time, but
Next time.
okay. I'll give you notice so you can practice. So, as you've guessed, Reid has been here before, and last time she read her Touchstone nominated haibun to us. And I'll put the link in the show notes for those of you who'd like to revisit or hear it for the first time. Now, Reid, today folks are going to get a flavour of the poetry in your book, Loss is a River. But before we get to your reading, I wanted to give our lovely poets an idea of what this book is all about. So I thought I'd start with excerpts of the reviews you've included in the book, and there were quite a few, and from some stellar people. For example, Carla Ramesh, herself a bit of a regular here at P Towers, recommends that poets buy the book to revel, rejoice, and sink into the pages of a child's love for her parents. And Sangeeta Kalarakal, another regular, talks of the book as a lament sung in lunar notes, which is something the two of us are going to come back to later. Richard Grant, someone who's not been here, maybe I should do something about that, but is the founder and editor of Drifting Sands Haibun, acknowledges that the book, while centered around the subject of loss, is also a celebration of the lives of those who have passed. I'd certainly echo all three of their opinions and thoughts, and maybe emphasize that yes, it's about loss, but truly it feels like a celebration too. But Reid, so much for my opinion, for their opinions. If I asked you to sum up what the poetry you've written for this book is about, how would you do it?
It's definitely like for me, it definitely was a journey through grief and loss. But like Richard said, it was a celebration too. It's about the celebration of the people who I had a real affinity for, my parents, some other relatives, and some friends who died.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to honor them through the conversations that we had through the dying process. I feel like I've been very fortunate in many respects that I've been with people who have passed and had been part of that process of of dying, and got to have conversations that most people don't have
Yeah.
in their life. And so, yeah, so many of the poems are based on those interactions that I had. And you know, when I think about the title, Loss is a River, the theme of the river is that a river ebbs and it flows, and it's sometimes turbulent, sometimes it's angry. And so for me, that's where that comes from. Yeah.
Now that's interesting because obviously Carla guided us that it was about your parents, and I think at the beginning you've dedicated it to Margaret Reid Hepworth and Robert Nicol Hepworth.
Yeah.
Your parents, I guess.
Those are my parents.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. So it's
Yeah.
dedicated to them, but not all about
It isn't all about
that.
them, but really the this came about through assisting my mother in the last couple of years of her life. I actually was her caregiver for the
Mhm.
last 2 years, and yeah. So for me, I never planned on writing this book. This wasn't something that I had even thought about doing. But as she was dying, it brought up all the stuff of all the other people who I cared about.
Hmm.
And so I wanted, while it is mostly centered on her and my dad, there are other people in here
Hmm.
that I also wanted to acknowledge.
So, Reid, if you're ready,
Sure,
shall we make a start and plunge into this world that you've created for us?
you bet. You never spoke of spirituality before, the alchemy of petals falling. You never spoke of spirituality before, the alchemy of petals falling. Things you can't control. I sit by your bedside and watch you sleep, Your breath, shallow little gasps. Moments before, in semi-wakefulness, you squeezed my hand and smiled. I could feel your nails, overgrown, dig into my palm. Holding on, letting go. The nurse checks your feet first, then your legs. Tells me that this is to be expected. The coolness is your body shutting down, one extremity after the other. She asks me if I need anything. I ask for another blanket. Letting go, holding on. Open window. A Stellar's J breaks the silence. Open window. A Stellar's J breaks the silence. Bedbound. You lean towards the window. A buttercup tracking the sun. Bedbound. You lean towards the window. A buttercup tracking the sun. Holding. Music fills the darkened room. She lies in bed, eyes closed, allowing herself to be drawn into the melody. Spring chorus. The beauty of a tulip unfurling. Later, she tells me that the music is no longer relegated to the night. It's with her all the time now. Her deaf ears tuning into a frequency that only she can hear. And while she's confused by it, she takes comfort, finds it peaceful. Open window, clatter of the world outside. But here I am, afraid to let go. I hold her hand and listen to her breath. It's the only sound I want to hear. Clinging to the last of the sun, cherry blossoms. Hard rain. She asks me to pray. Hard rain. She asks me to pray. The orca carries her dead calf through the strait. For days, I hold your hand until you let go. The orca carries her dead calf through the strait. For days, I hold your hand until you let go. Afterwards, I wrap myself in your hand-knit sweater, the one with buttonholes, but no buttons. Afterwards, I wrap myself in your hand-knit sweater, the one with buttonholes, but no buttons. Never the right time or place, your ashes. Never the right time or place, your ashes.
Thanks, Reid. Now, whenever a poet comes onto the podcast to engage us with their poetry, the poet chooses some poems, and so do I. You might have noticed that from previous podcasts. So the first poem I've requested is this, the first of the poems in the book.
Loss is a river overflowing. Even the mighty cedar can get pulled under. Loss is a river overflowing. Even the mighty cedar can get pulled under.
Thank you. Now, you might think, as you've seen the title of the book and you're starting to read, that this poem is responsible for that title. But as I read the book, I thought, oh no, it's more complex than that. There are a series of one-line poems sprinkled throughout the book. And Reid, would you read them to us in the order that they appear in the book?
For sure. Dying grass moon, loss is a river. Dying grass moon, loss is a river. Falling leaves moon, loss is a river. Falling leaves moon, loss is a river. Hunger moon, loss is a river. Hunger moon, loss is a river. Long night moon, loss is a river. Long night moon, loss is a river. No moon, loss is a river. No moon, loss is a river.
Now, I said to Reid before we started recording this, the moon is really interesting to me. The thing about it is that unless specified, the use of the moon, traditionally anyway, signifies an autumn period. And to quote Kenneth Yasuda from his book, The Japanese Handbook, in modern Japanese poetry, the moon has come to be one of the strongest seasonal themes for autumn. It can, of course, appear in poems dealing with other seasons, but then must be specifically qualified as a summer moon or a spring moon. And he goes on to make it clear that you can indicate another season within the body of the poem. You don't have to just put spring or summer moon. You can suggest the season, such as in this haiku. First crescent, the buck's velvet antlers. First crescent, the buck's velvet antlers, which is by Charles Harper in haiku dialogue. And here, bucks tend to have velvet on their antlers during spring and summer. So the poet is indicating clearly that he doesn't mean that it's autumn. So, Reid, if it's okay with you, I'd like to hear you read those poems again and maybe discuss what you were thinking when you wrote them. Would that be okay?
Of course.
Okay, let's
Um,
start from the beginning.
Dying grass moon, loss is a river.
Now, I couldn't find dying grass, or even, as I said to Reid at the beginning, in with my glasses being what they are, drying grass. But I couldn't find dying grass moon in the sajikis that I use. But coming from a farming stock, dying grass speaks to me of late summer, sort of verging on the autumn. Haymaking is finished, and they're on the farm, they're preparing the animals for winter. And I wondered, Reid, what were you thinking? Why did you decide to use dying grass moon?
I think mostly it's because it's rooted in stuff going dormant.
Hmm.
And for where I've positioned this in the book, it's actually when death was, or when my parents were actually dying.
Hmm.
So that's where I was going with it. So for me, Dying Grass Moon is rooted in death and renewal. And, it was chronicling that time when my mother was, specifically my mother was actively dying.
Hmm.
And the other part to, I just want to say, the other part to doing these five one-liners
Hmm.
was a little bit, it was a happy accident. And I'll just tell you about the reasons why for it. When I did my manuscript, I had written the Loss is a River on the title, like the title on each page. And so when my first reader got my manuscript, which was Susan Birch,
Hmm.
she saw Loss is a River and she thought it was meant as a poem to stand on its own. And so
Ah.
that became a conversation, and we discussed like how I could incorporate that into the book. And so for me, my background is expressive arts therapy, and so I look at things from a therapeutic standpoint, and so I was looking at it from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's Five Stages of Grief. And so I was trying to take each of those lines and make it about the period that I was going through and the person was going through. So Dying Grass Moon follows the first part of when you get a diagnosis to when you are dying. And so that's where this one came from.
Now that's interesting. I thought you might be going in that direction, but I hadn't placed it with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's ideas because I think there are other people have suggested there are up to 8 stages of the grief process. If I'm,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And this doesn't follow the thematic of what it would be like, hers would be denial and
Mm,
anger. And this isn't really following that, although those stages are all in there in the book.
yeah.
In some way, it wasn't done. It's poetic license, basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. Next one was the next. So we're doing this, as I said, we're doing this in the sequence that they are sprinkled through the book.
Falling leaves moon, loss is a river. Falling leaves moon, loss is a river. So for me, the death is a sacred event, is a graceful event, and falling leaves signified a time of letting go, both reflection and self-reflection.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's where
Okay.
I was going with that.
Okay. That follows the traditional idea of the falling leaves moon, certainly.
Mhm.
Okay, next.
Hunger moon, loss is a river. Hunger moon, loss is a river.
Okay, and
Yeah,
I want to look at this one, if I may, read with the next one, and then we can come back and talk about them together.
sure. Long night moon, loss is a river. Long night moon, loss is a river.
And the reason I asked you to do these together, because Hunger Moon is traditionally a name, I mean, if you follow the Sujikis, it's traditionally a full moon in February because of the
Mhm.
harsh winter conditions. Although I have to
Exactly.
say, here where I am, it's getting much nicer by you can actually see
Mhm.
signs of spring. But anyway, it's traditionally winter conditions, heavy snowfall, hunting is difficult, food supply is scarce, and that sort of thing. So we're looking at hardship and scarcity, but traditionally more in the February. Whereas to me, and again, put me straight if I'm wrong, this long night moon suggests the winter solstice, the longest night. So when I was reading them, I wondered why. I mean, this is my question, long-winded though it is, why you decided to put them hunger moon first, long night moon second.
I think for me, the hunger moon really spoke to me, wishing for something I could no longer have.
Ah,
Um, and, you know, with winter, it is really hard to get stuff and it's
mhm,
cold. And I think often that's when people feel at their most lonely and
mhm,
vulnerable
mhm.
because it's dark. And followed that with the long night moon would be moving towards acceptance of where it is, but it makes for a very long night.
Mm.
It's introspection, spiritual reevaluation, reflection, and coming to terms with your situation can lead to a lot of sleeplessness.
It's interesting. Again, you can write your poems, Reid, but you can never predict where your reader is going to go with
Mm-hmm.
them. And I've sat by the bedside of people who are dying, specifically my parents. I think it's a real honor, horrible though it is.
Mm-hmm.
In one way, it's a real honor to be there. And that I found the long night moon was very powerful for me, just because it spoke of the
Mm-hmm.
last night we'd have together. And as you say, there are. I mean, if you're lucky, I guess there's an opportunity for just reflecting on the wonderful times you've had together, all the good things, but it's still a
Absolutely.
very long night. Or it can be a very long night. And anyway, yes, that one for me was very, very powerful and took me back
Mm.
certainly to a place that, as I said, I was very honored to be, but wasn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the best night of my life. But anyway, so thank you for
Yeah.
bringing us through those ideas. And then on to the last one that you've sprinkled in the book.
No moon, loss is a river. No moon, loss is a river. And for me, that spoke to, the absence of light. It's a void, but it's also a time for acceptance, renewal, new beginnings,
Mhm,
spiritual cleansing.
mhm.
And also, I guess most importantly, when someone is gone, it's the time that we perform the rituals for them, offering our prayers to our ancestors, and and continuing on with the legacy that they've left us with.
I think, I mean, I was doing a little bit of research on this one, and I could be wrong because, you don't always get the best information when you're doing this research, but I believe in Hindu tradition, the day of the new moon is a significant time for
Hmm.
honoring our ancestors, and I thought that
Hmm.
that played very well with this poem, Where You Are.
Hmm.
Although you did write in a previous poem, now let me see, what was it? Never the right time or place, your ashes. Never the
Hmm.
right time or place, your ashes.
Hmm.
Which also I thought was a very, very powerful
Thank you.
poem. Reid, thank you very, very much for talking to me about these moon phrases because, like I said, I find them absolutely fascinating, and I really wanted to know what you were doing with them, what you were hoping to achieve. And I think from what we've heard, you absolutely you absolutely got that one nailed. So well
Well,
done with
thank
that.
you.
Uh,
Thank you.
and I think I said to you when we were tr writing about this that I was a little worried that the hunger moon and the long night moon
Hmm.
was slightly worrying me, but you've put that one to bed.
Hmm.
Thank you very much. I understand that totally now. Thank you.
And I think it's like you said too, that I think everybody who like readers are going to bring their own interpretation to the
Mm.
table based on their life experience. And this was just mine and my process towards healing, right? So
Hmm.
I don't know if it was very eloquent how I described it and stuff, but my intent was that was my intent was to it was a lament basically. Yeah.
It is a lament, but it also what struck me was that they are wonderfully placed throughout the book, just to emphasize the idea of the river, which you spoke about at the beginning. As you know, the river has very different stages, calm, a little bit more fluctuation, angry, and so on. And as you go through the grieving process from knowing that death is going to happen. I mean, we know that death is going to happen, but
Hmm.
it you never think about it until it's actually sort of right in front of your face, do you?
Hmm.
Not seriously. So from that moment on, there is a flow to what happens in your emotions, and I think I mean, the whole book is a perfect example of that. And as I said, don't forget it is a celebration as well as a lament, as you put it.
Hmm.
But it really, the title is so apt just
Thank you.
because of what a river does and what water does. It heals, it's
Hmm.
really very good.
Thank you.
Now, we've heard some of the poems, and I'm sure people would like to read more. So tell us, where can they find this little gem?
Oh, you can find it on Amazon. It's available at Amazon in most countries. You could also pick it up from the publisher, Adisacret, in India. And yeah, that's where you can get it. Or you can contact me, and I'm happy to send a signed copy off as well.
Oh, signed copy. Oh, that would be nice.
You're
I've got one. It's very nice. Thank you very much,
very
Reid.
welcome.
Now, if anyone's worried about having their notebooks and writing down where to get hold of Reid's book, don't worry, because of course all details will be in the show notes and you can follow the instructions there and find the book. And I would recommend it. So, Reid, tell me, you've done this book now, you've mastered the ukulele. What's going on? What
Uh,
else can we expect from you?
well, I have a new book coming out.
Oh,
Yeah, it should be coming out. It's coming out very soon. It's a book of haibun and other haiku forms
hmm.
called The Improbability of Sea Monkeys.
Okay, we'll certainly have you back and and, and find out what that title is all about. When can we expect that one out?
It'll be out probably this month.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Jolly good. So if you're thinking of Christmas present, folks, two books you can go and buy. Available, I guess, Amazon and all the usual
Amazon.
places.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Wonderful. Anything else apart from what? If you've got two books under your belt now, so what are you working on as a follow-up?
Um, just life, I think, right now. Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yep.
It's all I can cope with, so fair play to you. So, Reid, thank you so much for coming along and reading this time, and we look forward to you coming back and finding out what that title about sea monkeys is all about. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
Pleasure for me too. Thank you. And so, as we bring this final episode of the year to a close, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Reid Hepworth for such a beautiful and generous reading. It's been an honour to share her work with you. Do have a look at the show notes. You'll find links to Lost as a River, which I must say would make rather a splendid gift for anyone who loves poetry or simply loves being moved by language. I've also included a link to her newest book, the marvellously titled The Improbability of Sea Monkeys. Yes, I now know exactly what they are, and yes, the book is another cracker. Thank you for being with Reid and me today. It's been a pleasure to share this time and this poetry with you. I'll be back in the new year with more poetic mischief and a few rather big ideas I'm eager to unveil. A small mission for you before you go. Do pop over and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Link will be in the show notes. That way, you won't miss a single thing we have in store. So until next time, keep writing and reading. And do make sure you visit the website for submission information and, of course, the links to Reid's books. Ciao.